Hello YouTube, it is Friday the 18th of August. It's been a very poor day in terms of my money making efforts today. I'm unlikely, I think, to get any work at this point. It's now 5:15 and I'm about 2.25 hours from home. So I'm going to assume I'm not going to get any more work, and I'll tell you about today and then summarise this week. So, this morning I was aiming to get myself back down south from Scotland. I started off, I had a drop off in Newbridge that I had last night. So I woke up around about 7ish, I was looking at the feed, and it seemed to be quite busy where I was. And I started sort of counting the jobs, and I was soon at a point where the jobs got beyond, say, 20. I thought there's no point counting anymore. It's going to be a really good day today. These were all jobs in and around Scotland. So I was close to Edinburgh, and a lot of the jobs were sort of Glasgow. A couple from Dalkeith that I went to the other day, which was by Edinburgh, and a couple from where I was, Newbridge. So I got my item delivered, got it signed for, and then I was looking for jobs and bidding on jobs, and I really wasn't bidding on much because I wanted to really head down south. So there were jobs close to me, but they were all sort of staying up, going north or going west towards Glasgow, or coming from Glasgow. There's quite a few coming from Glasgow actually. And it's quite interesting, having been up in Scotland for a day and a half, knowing where the concentration of jobs are. It does seem to be concentrated more in Glasgow than Edinburgh, but there is jobs in both places, and between the two. Livingston had a few jobs while I was up there. Anyway, I was just about to make my way. I checked where I was, and where I had stopped last night in Newbridge. I was 45 minutes from Glasgow. I was half an hour from Edinburgh, and I was 15 minutes from Livingston. So I thought, well, I'll probably just head a bit further west towards Livingstone to get a job, because then I'll be almost in the middle of both of the two major cities. I'm sort of within about 35 minutes of both cities, hopefully. And as I was leaving, a job came up from Newbridge, going to sort of south of me, but southwest, sort of in the area of what's the name of the place? It's a K. I want to say Kirkcaldy, but that might not be right. It might be nowhere near there. I don't know. Anyway, it was going sort of southwest, and it was 50 miles, I think, 49 miles. I paid £50. It was just for a small van, and because I looked at the people around me, there was about 3 people that were green on the feed. That were close. I was like about 5 minutes from the pickup point. So I put on a strong bid for £75, and I thought, I've got a reasonable case for getting this. Also, the other thing to be aware of, the job came on at about 9:15, and it said to be collected between 9 and 9:30. So it wasn't the usual hour window, so I assumed there was some urgency to this. And as it was, there was some urgency to it. So I put the bid in, and about 5 minutes later I got a call, and I got the job. And I happened to look at who was around me, and when one of the green circles was the same name as the shipper that was giving me the job, and I realised that what was happening was that he was coming to me to give me his load, because he has to go off and go off to somewhere else. So that's why the urgency was there. Is that really, in hindsight, there was no one else close enough to collect this load, because I was 5 minutes from, well, actually, I would say 5 minutes. He came to me, to be fair. So once I knew what it was, he came. I didn't move at all. He came to me, and we just swapped the boxes on the road. Yeah. So I then made my way to deliver these boxes, and it took me about an hour and a half to get there. I was looking at the feed all the way down, trying to get work, and I got to the drop-off point, and I floated pretty quickly. So I got there at I had to be there by before 11, and I actually got there off-site by 10 to 11. So then I was stuck in the middle of nowhere, really. Actually, it might have a name on here of the place that I went to. It means, I think, Catrine is the place that I went to. It wasn't the place I was thinking of with a K, that means with a C. But Catrine is like a little village, and that's where I ended up. And it's in the middle of nowhere, really. So I headed sort of south, and the next major city, if I come south, sort of southeast, was Dumfries. It's about an hour and a quarter away. So I set my sat nav for Dumfries and then look for jobs. And today, I did set a journey at each point. So about every hour or so, I reset my journey so that the times were accurate. And I noticed today that I looked back before I did this video, and I only had all day 3 alerts that were alerts because of my current location. Every other alert was either my home location, I had quite a few of those, or my journey. And that was really unusual, because often, even if you're on a journey, you get current location alerts. And I had 2 while I was in Scotland, and then by the time I dropped off my load at Catrine, so 11 o'clock-ish, from then until now, 5 o'clock, almost 5, I've had 1 current location job come up. So I don't know why that is, because that is a bit unusual. And I'm going to guess that it wasn't as busy today as I thought it was going to be. Because I've driven down the M6 by Carlisle, across towards Doncaster, I think it is. Yeah, Doncaster. And down towards Leeds and Sheffield. The only thing I think of is I did get stuck on traffic on the A66 before the A1, and I'm on the A1 now, heading south, gone 5 o'clock. And I think possibly one of the reasons was most of where I was actually in the wilds of Scotland or the wilds of England. So I might just have missed where the work was. There were 5 jobs that I bid on today, and I've made a note of them, and I didn't get any of them, but there were only 5 suitable jobs I could bid on. So maybe it wasn't that busy today after all. I want to run through the 5 because I think that I'm disappointed that I've not got any other work today, and I think that I could have perhaps bid lower on one of my jobs, but for the other 4 I wouldn't have changed anything. So the first job that came up was, and this is right at the start of the day, I was on my way to Dumfries. I was 25 minutes away, and a job came up from Dumfries to Bolton, so exactly where I was going to drive. I looked at the map, there was nobody anywhere near Dumfries. The closest people, other than me, were on the M6, going sort of down towards Carlisle from Scotland, or I assume maybe up from Carlisle to Scotland. But I was actually in Dumfries, so heading there. So I put £1 a mile on that, and I was really confident I'd get that job. The only problem was it was on the feed at 1:45, I think, at that sort of time. and it was for a before 3 o'clock pickup, and it had to be Bolton before 7 o'clock. So I thought, well, I'll get there about 1 o'clock and pick it up, and I'll be there. I'll get to Bolton about 5 o'clock. So I put £150 on, 149 miles, small van job, and I was so confident I was going to get it. 25 minutes of driving towards Dumfries, but no call. I even tried to call them, but unfortunately it's one of those shippers, it's a national shipper, and when you call the number on the CX, it basically knows it's you as a CX driver, and it just has a message saying, if you put on a job, if we're interested, we'll call you back. It doesn't allow you to go through and talk to them. So I delayed my journey in Dumfries. I had something to eat and went to the toilet. And then I rebid saying I'm going to be leaving Dumfries in 10 minutes, hoping that might inspire them to get on with the job. But no, and so I left. I even kept bidding for about 10 minutes as I was driving away from Dumfries in case they rang me. But then they didn't. So by the time I got 25 minutes away from the pickup place, I just cancelled the bid. And I've just had a look at it, and that job got cancelled in the end. So I'm going to assume that I was probably the only one that bid, and I was bidding too high. But £1 a mile on a Friday from Dumfries, that is good value for a same day delivery in my view. So maybe the customer didn't feel it was good value. I'm sure the shipper understood that it would have been a worthwhile enterprise. I'm assuming that they couldn't get the customer to pay that amount. I don't know any of this, I'm just assuming it. Right, the next job that I bid on at my minimum rate, £50. It was a 26 mile job. I put £50 on and didn't get it. So fair enough. I'm sure someone else got that cheaper. That's just the way it goes sometimes. So I wasn't going to go cheaper than that. The next one that I bid on, it was 100 miles. No, it wasn't. It was going from Stockton-on-Tees to a TW postcode, Hounslow, I think it was. And I don't want to go to Hounslow. It was about 250 odd miles, the journey. And I put on 275 because really it's £1 a mile, and I wanted to add a bit more on because I had to get back home again afterwards. To be fair, I don't care that I didn't get that job because it wasn't really one that I wanted. It was going too far south, and in the end, that job got cancelled as well. So I'm assuming that they just too high, just too high. It's better designed for someone who was actually heading towards London. It wasn't really suitable for me. Next one I bid on as £1 a mile. It was 100 miles. I was about 55 minutes away from it, and it was a small van job. So I think it was a fair price. I didn't get it. I'm assuming someone was closer or got it for a bit cheaper. And then the last one I did a price on. This is the one I think I made an error on maybe. It was a 30-mile job, and it was kind of going in my general direction. It's something like Darlington to Bradford or something. I wasn't quite sure. I don't know exactly what, but it was going sort of south, and I was passing it. And I thought I could just get a bit of money on that. That would make my day a bit better. So I could have put £50 on, but because it was going sideways, not directly south, it was going to add more time to my day. I didn't really want to do it for just £50. So I put £60 on that job. And I think in hindsight, I probably would have got it at 50, and maybe 60 was pushing it too much. So I just felt that may have been a judgment call that I would have changed if I did it again. So other than those 5 there's not really been any jobs I could bid on, because most of the jobs that came up when I was in England were like an hour and a half away, because they were on my journey, not my current location. So I had quite a lot of jobs from Leeds and Normington going out around the country, but I just couldn't get there in time because of the delayed traffic on the A66 in particular, and also the A1M as well. So it's just been one of those days. I think it hasn't been as busy job-wise as I thought it was going to be. I just wasn't in the right place at the right time, so I ended up only getting the one job for £75. I know that my fuel is going to be in the region of £50 to get home from Scotland, so my net earnings, which I'll go through in a minute for today, is going to be less than I need to keep my business running for today. So when I think about this week, I think I had 3 really good days and then 2 quite bad days. One moderately bad day, which was yesterday, and one very bad day, which is today, which isn't running. So my figures for the week won't be great because of the last 2 days. And if I was a different kind of person, I would be blaming Scotland for that. But I'm not going to blame Scotland for that, because Scotland is a good place to earn money, I think, sometimes. Sometimes it's not. I've been up and down to Scotland a few times, and I've learnt each time. I learnt a lot on this trip. I learnt by staying in Scotland on Thursday. I learnt, although it was a very difficult day and I didn't like the day at all, I learnt from the experience. I've learnt a bit from today that I can use for future. I think today is probably an outlier in terms of my usual income. So it's been a lot of dead miles. My weekly average pence per mile earned is really bad because of today, which is a bit disappointing because I've been on a bit of a roll with that. So I'm going to give my stats for today and then for the whole week, and then a couple of little things to talk about, but then I'm going to let you get on and have a lovely weekend. So today, 1 CX job. By the time I get home, I will have worked for 11 hours, done 380 miles, 380. I filled up with fuel today, and the fuel is going up, or has gone up from last week. So the average price of fuel for me this week is 16.5 pence now. So that means the fuel that I've spent on that mileage today is £62.69, and that my gross earnings were £75 just for 1 CX job, which means I've earned a grand total after fuel of £12 today. So not good at all. My weekly figures. So putting those figures for the whole week, I worked for 5 days. Well, yeah, I did work for 5 days today this week. But if you remember, on Tuesday I didn't really work after tipping. I went down from home to High Wycombe, tipped. We went for a pub. We had a late start, so we left at 12. Got down there about 3. And a late start. Went to the pub. Went to a hotel. Next day we didn't start work till 12:15. So really, from 3 till 12, Tuesday to Wednesday, I didn't really work. But I'm going to say I worked 5 days. I wasn't able to work for 5 days this week. My mileage this week was 1,557 miles, 1,557. I have worked for 44 hours and 20 minutes. And in total I've earned £1,120 gross. My fuel expenditure this week has been £256.85, and that means after fuel my net earnings for the 5 days have been £863.863, and that means that I haven't made my target for this week per day. My average per day was just £172.63. My pence per mile was 55.44 pence per mile of every mile I drove of earnings. So that's probably, I think, that is the lowest I've had since probably, I'm just looking, I think it's probably April. Yeah, since the end of April. Actually, last time it was lower than that. And then finally, my amount earned per hour on average this week has gone down because the last 2 days. It's now just £10.53, and that's after I take into account 5 lots of £80 to cover my business expenses, and after the fuel. That's what I actually have earned from doing this job this week, and that is the lowest amount again since the first week of April. Okay, let's have a quick look at my subscriber numbers. I'm not going to do this every video now because it's slowed up quite a lot and there's not that much change each day. But I'm pretty sure it's changed slightly from the last time I did this. So currently, as of Friday, we have 123 people as subscribers. So that's gone up by, I think, 2 since last time I said that. So thank you very much. And then I wanted to try and express this idea. It's a little bit hard to express, but it's a genuine feeling, I suppose, or thought about this work. And I was thinking this last night before today happened, and I was thinking, what was so I'll try to explain what it was. So it's one of the things I really like about this job, and it's in the way that I see it, it's got lots of upsides and it has got some downsides, but the heights of the upsides are much better than the lows of the downsides. So let me try and explain that in relation to today. So last night I was sitting waiting for today, looking for jobs, and then I had a job to get delivered this morning, so I knew I was going to do that. So I thought tomorrow is going to turn out in a number of ways. I thought, what's the worst thing that can happen tomorrow? Well, the worst thing that can happen tomorrow is I've got a load and I break down and I can't deliver the load and I have to pay for repair and recovery. I'm in Scotland. That is probably the worst thing that could have happened today. And I thought the chance of that happening is very remote because my van's just been serviced. I've not spotted anything wrong with it. I'm going to be careful when I drive, so I'm not going to have a crash. You can't guarantee any of these things, but it's all about risk analysis. So what's the next worst thing that could happen? Well, the next worst thing that could happen is I don't get a job. So if I don't get a job tomorrow, that means I've got to drive all the way home and not get paid for it. Which means I've got to pay for the fuel to get home and I don't get paid for the day. Well, that's bad, but it's not anywhere near as bad as breaking down and losing money. So immediately the next worst thing that's happening is not as bad as that. Look at the other side. What's the best thing that can happen tomorrow? The best thing tomorrow, I could get a great job either going all the way home, paying me like £1 a mile for all the miles, or I could get a series of jobs that gets me all the way home with very little dead miles. And if that happens, I'm going to be earning above target and I'll be home in good time. Again, the chance of that happening is quite remote, but it could happen. And if that happens, it's not it's more likely that that's going to happen than I'm going to break down or have a crash, which is the worst case scenario. So what's more likely to happen? More likely to happen is I'm going to get 1 or 2 jobs. I have to work hard to find them. I might have to go out of my way. I might have to have a long day. If I get 1 or 2 jobs or even 3 jobs throughout the day, that'll give me my target. And I'll get home and sleep in my bed tonight. I might have a very long day, but that's still a good day. And then between like no job and that job is like getting what happens today, which is like 1 job. So if I get 1 job, at least it pays for my fuel to get home. So about £75, that has paid for me the fuel costs for me to get myself home. I haven't earned any extra money, so my time has been for free today, and I haven't paid for my business costs today. So it has, in that respect, been a bad day. But it could have been any of those outcomes. And what I like about this job is, first of all, you get to control to some extent the outcomes that happen. If I look for jobs, I'm much more likely to get one than if I don't look for a job. If I have some sort of skill or awareness or experience, I'm more likely to get the right sort of job. I'm more likely to choose the right sort of job to bid for or bid the right amount. So you can control your destiny to some extent. And in that scenario, me coming from Scotland to home, in most cases, I would have got home and been paid for it and got there and got home in time. It just so happens that today that didn't happen. I had one job and I've got a limited amount of money to go home. But that doesn't mean that I was wrong to think that last night the opportunities were there, because the opportunities were there. The opportunities last night were unknown. And that's what's really good about this job. You don't know what's going to happen the next day. I don't know what's going to happen in the next minute. A job might come up now and it might just be perfect for me. I'll pick it up and my day's sort of saved. I'm not actually looking at them because I'm doing this video. But what I mean is, so what I'm trying to say is the upsides to this job, there are lots of times in the day when an upside could happen. And the upsides are bigger than the downsides. Me not getting a job now for the next 2 hours is pretty much the worst downside that's going to happen. And all that means is I won't get paid for the day. I might get a job, I might get a small job, and then suddenly that's eating into giving me a bit of profit for the day. I haven't explained it very well. I think it's maybe because it's the way my mind works. I know what I'm thinking about when I say this. So I'll just summarise it and then I'll stop the video. What I'm trying to say is I love this job because every day is different, every day is new, and the new opportunities are usually good things that happen, not bad things that happen. Finding the right job, getting a job, delivering, picking up, earning the money, they're all things that are positive. And the negatives are so minor and so minuscule in comparison to the positives, in my opinion. And I think it's partly the way you look at this job as to whether you see it like that. You might look at this job, maybe what I'm saying here is a version of I look at this job as a glass half full rather than a glass half empty. Maybe somebody else would hear what I'm saying and think, well, that's nonsense. I don't like all that for the very same reasons you said that. And maybe it's a way of looking at the world. But I sort of see the world through the idea of probability and risk. And last night, before today happened, there was every chance it's going to be a good day. So I look forward to it. This morning when I dropped off my parcel, I was looking forward to getting the next job. But I got one really quickly. I got that opportunity in Dumfries really quickly. It didn't actually pay off, but for the time that I was waiting for it, that could have been a great job. So just taking that one job. If I'd got the Dumfries to Bolton job, £150, I'd have made this day with one decision from one person, not necessarily me, from somebody else, would have changed my day completely. So I suppose that's a good example of what that one event not happening made my day not as good as it could have been. But equally, if it had have happened, my day would have been amazing. Okay, thank you very much for listening. I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend. What have you learned today?